Have you ever experienced a God wink? You know, the kind of experience you know without a shadow of a doubt that God stepped in and gave you a big old wink from heaven. I'm your host, Cindy Sparre, broadcasting from Office Evolution in Troy, Michigan. I am the founder of My Collective Network and My Christian Business Network, two amazing business networking organizations. I am a firm believer that there is power in sharing God wink stories. Think of it as a way for people to shine their light on Jesus, one wink at a time. In Matthew 5:14, it says, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." Hello, everyone. This is Cindy Sparre coming to you live from Office Evolution, Troy. And I am super excited to have my baby in the room. Joshua Sparre is going to be sharing his God wink story with us today. And his God wink story, man, as a mom, it really gets me emotionally going too. So listen, if I get emotional today, it's because it is my son that has gotten his God wink. Praise the Lord. So before we dive into things, let's go, bro.
Bro.
Or no, I said it. It's brah.
Bruh.
The weirdest thing, you guys, if you've got youth, they got their own language going on. And I'm not mommy. Sometimes I'm bruh. So, bruh, tell our listeners a little bit about you and sharing, like, what do you like to do? What's your favorite thing to do when you're not in school?
I love playing sports and just hanging out with my friends. I like being in and enjoying, myself, but I love being around people, and it's hard for me to be alone for a while. And, yeah.
You sound like you were cut from the same cloth as me. You know what that means?
No.
Right away, I'm like, you probably don't know what that means. You're just like me. You like to be around people a lot. I think the whole neighborhood knows your name.
Mm-hmm.
So, how old are you?
12.
Okay. Where do you go to school?
Merit Academy.
It's like a pop quiz, you guys. He's like, what? I wasn't prepared for that. What grade are you going into?
7th.
What's your favorite Christian song?
I like Torn Wells. I like Take It All Back, like he's stepping through the gates of hell to tell the devil, you don't own my soul.
Ooh.
So I like that a lot because the devil doesn't own our soul.
You're taking back what the enemy stole.
Yep.
And you like your rap.
I like my rap too.
What's a couple rap people?
I like NF. He shows a lot about God, but he doesn't talk about it, but he definitely shows.
Yeah. I think he's like puts little pieces of God in it. Like you can see it. Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah.
And you can rap his music pretty good. You got some rhythm and rap in you. Well, let's take a dive into last week. We're going to kind of start in the beginning of the God wink day. How's that sound?
Good.
Okay. So last, I think it was Tuesday, I was sitting in a parking lot. My engine, apparently, I thought it blew up. Started smoking out the hood. And so I'm like, great. My husband Daddy just paid off his car. In the last month, we have 2 paid off vehicles. And I'm like, come on, Lord, seriously, my Jeep, the engine looks like it blew, right? The first initial feeling you get when your car's smoking.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, Lord, let me get it home. Made it home okay without it overheating. Took it to a car shop the next day. And I'm like, I needed to lead an event at Office Evolution that morning. So I called up Cora and I'm like, listen, can you give me a ride? Are you going to this workshop I'm supposed to be helping to lead? She's like, say no more. I'll come get you. And you and I had plans. We didn't know exactly, Josh, what we were going to do, right?
Yeah.
It was just a discussion of, amazingly, most of my days free, right?
Right.
So I didn't even realize you came downstairs and you're like, hey, what are we doing? And I'm like, oh, no. Well, now I don't have a car and I got to lead this event, which was only supposed to be in the morning. And what did you offer to do?
To go to work with you to a meeting. And it was nice.
Do you ever ask to come to work with me?
No, I never was interested into it.
He's a social person, but not in networking. He's like, nah, I'll pass on that. So he comes down. He's like, well, listen, I'll come with you. And I'm like, dude, this could be drawn out. I don't even know when we'd get back because I'm not driving. And you're like, that's okay. I'm fine with it, right? So I called Cora and said, are you okay with this? Now, mind you, Cora Dugan is immersed in youth leadership at her church. She loves it. She's gets all excited engaging with youth and especially talking God. So we hop in Cora's car, right? You get in the back seat. Mm-hmm. And do you even remember any conversation on our way to Office Evolution of just talking about God or asking her questions?
I was trying to get what she'd done for work and all that, and she was talking a lot about God, and I said I didn't really believe and I didn't understand God. He never gave me any answers that he was real, and I always prayed to him, but he just never showed up. Mm-hmm. But Cora said he would. So, yeah.
And bring us back to church. And you wrote on a tithe envelope. Do you remember writing on there about the wink?
I was saying on the note, I wish, my mom gets all these people that have all these God winks, and it's just so cool to see, but I never got one. And I feel like he just doesn't want me. I'm just a mistake or something. And I just felt like I wasn't a part of my family because all of them were into Christian, but I wasn't.
Mm. I saved that envelope. Mm-hmm. I put it in a memory box. I was like, wow, that's incredibly authentic, right? For you to share that. And I showed, just Cora and Daddy, right? But I remember I was like, man, Lord, I want him to have God winks. That would be so cool. And to hear you say those, I feel like he doesn't hear me, breaks my heart. Because I was like, dang, I want him to have these winks. So going back, now we fast forward to that given day. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so you were being super inquisitive with Cora. And as a mom, and I'll speak to the listeners right now, as a mom, know when to stay quiet. Because sometimes I think we step in as parents and say, oh, you've had experience, or you just try and put your perspective on it. But very far and few will your child open up about things. And I knew this isn't my time to talk. This is his time to talk with Cora, who is trained as a youth leader. She knows to talk brah, right? Brah. So she, she just asked simple questions, open-ended questions with you. Did you ever feel like she was too much or
No.
Yeah, kind of felt like a buddy, an older buddy. So we go and we're driving down 16 Mile, And she's like, oh, and this is my husband's shop. I'm like, oh my gosh. I think I remember you saying your husband managed a car repair shop. And I said, oh, and immediately I thought about my car. You're like, oh man, I should have taken my car to him. And then across the street, someone else usually works there on the railroad all the live long day. Who's that?
My dad.
And I'm like, Spencer, literally works usually at the Sterling Yard right across the street. How crazy is that? Little just things that I thought were cool. Mm-hmm. And as we get to Office Evolution, we do this workshop. And Joshua, you're super observant of a person, okay?
Yeah.
Like all these adults always say, oh, he's so smart and he listens and he asks good questions. And you were out in the lobby of Office Evolution at the time. And you told me later, you said, hey, Colleen, the one who owns Office Evolution, she's talking about you. And I was like, oh, yeah? You didn't say anything more than that, but I was like, oh, she's promoting my collective network and my Christian business network. And you were like, I said, more than likely that's what she was doing. And you were like, well, whoever she was talking to had a tattoo on their arm. And I'm like, oh, okay. It turned into a God wink, right? A couple days later, get an email. She's introducing a gentleman. And turns out this is the tattooed gentleman. And this isn't just your ordinary tattoo. It's a tattoo of Jesus, which was cool. Wink, wink, right? So he's like, yeah, she was just talking to him. And I don't know what the tattoo was of, but Colleen's like, it was of Jesus. And I was talking about the Christian network. So then you're still with us, and Cora's like, what do we do? The workshop's over. What do you want to do? And I'm like, well, girl, you're the one that drove. Like, whatever you want. And she's like, you want to go to lunch? I'm like, okay. So we go to lunch. She's still talking to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember any questions she asked you when we ate lunch together?
Telling her at that time about I didn't really believe, and then she brought up, well, we have a youth group tonight, a drive-through. And it's like a drive-through is at the end of all the worship and like the speaking, you would go watch a movie. And I said, oh, okay. And then, yeah.
That's right. Oh, my goodness. And also, too, I remembered you talking about Santa.
Oh, so yeah, Santa. It was hard for me to believe that God was real because I, like Santa's not real, like the Tooth Fairy and all of these others. And I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it was like Santa, but she told me Santa's a worldly thing they made up, but God is like a culture, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, well, if you lied to me about the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny and Santa, why should I trust you now?
Yeah.
So you were all about this drive-in movie. You were like, ooh, can I come?
Yeah.
And what did I say in return that you brought up that I've said in the past? You told me if I go somewhere.
If I go anywhere, like you can go to any youth on a Wednesday. It just has to be a youth. So I was like, then I can pick this one.
Yep.
And we went.
So she's preparing too. Once we said, okay, I said, we're in. We're going to be with you for the night, right? What are some of the things that she said to you to prepare you for what their service is like?
It's not like our usual church. Like, we have worship and all that, but it's different there. Like, the kids are, like, into it. Like, they raise their hands, and it's just, like, I never seen it before. I never been in it. But my parents have. And it was just so cool to see. And then they have an altar call. It's like when you come down and throw all your problems there. She said, if God's really pulling on you during that worship and the pastor speaking, you should go. And if it's not, then you shouldn't. And I said, I'm probably not going to go because I don't do that stuff and I don't cry. I won't ever cry. But yeah.
So we get there, and I think you got introduced to some of the kids your age because your whole row was filled. I think you were in the center of the row. Mm-hmm. And so they end up doing that altar call, and what did you decide to do?
He kept pulling on me. I kept crying during the pastor speaking, so I was like crying, so I was like, I should go. He was really pulling on me hard. So I went down there, and I just bawled out and was on my knees, and I was praying, like all my problems releasing. I was just throwing it to him, and he was taking them all, and I was just, like, my body was, like, shaking, my eyes were flinching, and then I heard, it's okay, and God was tapping on me. I was like, what is that? Is that a person next to me? But I looked all around me, no one was by me. And I was like, was that God? And I was so curious the whole night, and yeah, it was. And I'm just always, now I feel way better than I used to be. Like, I used to be in a bad area, like, not where we live, but with my friends. Like, I've been in a bad area. They would swear. They would do really bad stuff and weird. And I told them, if you can't, like, stop, I just can't handle it, and I have to, I'm sorry, but we're not friends. And it's hard to say it, but one friend stopped. He said, I do understand. And he's Buddhist, and so it's hard, like, for him, but they're starting to go to my youth, and they like it a lot, and they're starting to be Christians, and that's good.
That's so awesome. The impact, how you can have on your friends. And it's kind of like you just felt, did you feel like it was like a switch from that day?
Yeah, I felt different, but in a happy way.
You look like you had an adrenaline rush. Now, listeners, I wasn't allowed as the parent to be in the actual service sanctuary, right, where you guys were at, which completely understand, right? Like there was about 120 youth from 7th grade to and beyond, right, in that room. So these kids are being brought up by I'd say even mid-20-year-olds, right, that went through training, and even they have a biblical college school. But just watching it, and Cora and her husband, Sean, they're part of that leadership team. But I was in this upper area, right? It was, I don't know if you call it the balcony, but they took me up these back stairs, and they just barely cracked open the curtain, right? And I remember looking out, and I was so loving it too, Josh. The worship was so good. I had my eyes closed. I was crying. I had my hands in the air. And I was the only one, but maybe there might have been one individual upstairs with me, one other adult. But I was in it. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, where's Joshua at? And I looked down and saw that you had left your seat and was scouring through the crowd because there were so many kids up there. And it took me a while because you were knelt down. Like you were on your knees with your head down. And I remember praying that God would really show himself to you. Like I'm like, man, I see you. Let him see you. Let him hear you. Touch him, Lord. And I just thought it was so cool. Cora was praying the same thing. And to see when I came downstairs, you were all shook up. Your eyes were bloodshot red. And you were like, God talked to me. How cool is that? But kind of going back to it through all this experience to the beginning of a broke down car. And as I saw all that happen and transpire through the whole day of how God was working, remember at the end in this, he told me, he says, welcome to the upper room when I was upstairs. And I start crying because that's such a sacred place to be in the upper room with him. It's a biblical thing, Josh. I don't know if you know of it, but he's like, welcome to the upper room. And I started documenting what happened that day and the gratitude, like this happened and that happened. And wow, like this is an incredible day that normal people think adversity, which I guess the definition of adversity is things coming against you that feel like they're coming against you, is adversity. Like I felt like I was going through adversity. But on Sunday, Pastor Winston was preaching on adversity. I'm going to pull this up. He talked about Apostle Paul writing while he was in prison and counting it all as joy. So there was a slide up at church this Sunday that said, too soon we see adversity through the lens of our desires for comfort, achievement, success, validation, self-actualization, and self-glorification, even goals. But the problem is when we do this, adversity and its potential outcomes don't even feel like wins. So I now see adversity as powerful, right? Like God turns adversity into his glory. Him embracing you that day, right? And saying like, this is a good thing. And now, I mean, how are you feeling about, or no, tell them about Sunday morning. You ended up coming to me and saying, I felt it again. How did you feel it again?
It was from my mom, and like she was like speaking, like she was just like, it was like what the pastor said, and that's how he made me cry. And she said like almost the same thing, and I started crying again. And it was just like cool. And back to the like Tuesday night, she prayed that I would come to work with her because I never go to work with her. And the next day, I asked her, can I go to work? And all of that came from her praying all the way to that God wink I had at the church.
That's crazy.
Gateway Church.
Oh, yeah. Plug Gateway.
Yeah, Plug Gateway.
Imlay City. Gateway Church. Yeah, what just a powerful message. Even for me, it's kind of funny because, Josh, I almost feel like, man, I wish I could go to youth night and be a part of it, right?
Yeah, right.
They do have other things at Gateway, like Bible studies for adults on Wednesday nights as well. But it's funny how you just want to be there, right? The Holy Spirit and everything. And mind you, like listeners, I love, I would shout to the end of the world. I love my Woodside Bible Chesterfield church. And I love my community. I love the ministries that we do. Although I will tell you that if my child comes to me and says, I am being fed and led at this, wherever, this church, not that I don't do my due diligence of the church, okay? But I'm going to let them go. Because my heart is to see them walking with the Lord and have a relationship with God. That is my utmost important thing. And you know what I love so much about my church as well? I had a wonderful conversation with our youth leader at Woodside. And Maggie said, I want to see our children as well, our youth with the Lord, walking with the Lord. And her heart was just like, I'm so happy for him. Thank you so much for letting me know. This is amazing because I know even some of the church people said they seen the piqued interest in him as well. So, yes, absolutely. Now, this opened up, Josh, to your brother coming to me the next day. Did you know I went on a walk with Jacob?
Mm-mm.
So we walked to get the car that next day to take it to Sean.
Oh, yeah.
And no, let me forget about Sean. So we take about a mile walk to get to this car repair shop. And Jacob ends up saying, Mommy, I really, really, really love the message from the pastor at Grandma's church in Papa Danny's. And I'm like, really? Well, not to be rude, but I was like, oh my gosh, he's, like this is important to him. So he did the same exact thing, right? We said, hey, if this feeds you at your grandma, Papa Danny's church, then on Sundays you can go there. So that was a big deal. I don't know if our listeners, those of you that may have kids, I know that your number one goal is that they're being fed and led, and also in the right church. I would still say that you need to do your research on the church. Don't get me wrong there. But yeah, it's powerful in that. Mm-hmm. Now, there's another piece here that I want us to talk about, and that was about the car getting repaired.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that one. So the car repair shop said that I dropped it off at, we can't repair it. We think it's best that you go to a dealership, and we think it's going to be about $1,500 or something of that sort to repair it. So I'm like, oh my goodness, come on, $1,500. So Cora had said that day before, she was like, why don't we see what Sean can do with it at his car repair shop, which we're going to hashtag Sterling Car Care.
Car care.
Right on Big Beaver Road at the cross section of Mound. So we end up going right in after lunch that day on Wednesday to Sterling Car Care, walking in and just saying, hey, this is what's going on. Can we bring the car in? And he gets us right in. But the icing on the cake is I'm like, I need a car. And because I have things that I need to lead for the business, events, that sort of thing. And Sean's like, oh, look, we just got a loaner returned, and we could loan that out to you when you bring your car in tomorrow. So I was like, oh my goodness, thank goodness. So I bring the car in. They have amazing customer service, ended up calling me or texting me, giving me my estimates.
Yep. And
ends up being, $700, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Half the cost.
Half.
So I'm like, thank goodness, finding out that they could repair it. They even went to a yard, like a scrap yard, I don't know, car scrap yard, and being able to find a part there that instead of $120, it was like $20 or something like that. So huge shout out right now to Sterling Car Care. They turned over and repaired my vehicle. It was like
half the cost.
Yeah.
Remember,
half the cost. So that was a blessing in itself. And just so many things, Wings, that God's done along the way. Even this is the last plug that I'm going to do here that came to mind. Come to find out, Sean, Cora Dugan's husband, he and I don't know how we found this out, but the guy loves to sell on eBay. Okay. Now, my husband, if any of you know Spencer Sparre, he loves selling on eBay. And I'm like,
yeah.
What in the world? Cora goes, you're kidding me. Like, she says, my husband loves to go to garage sales. And I'm like, my husband's addicted to garage sales. I'm like, and our husbands work across the street from each other. And they serve in the sound booth. And, like, all the similarities, right? I mean, if he could marry somebody, sounds totally weird, but I think he'd marry Sean. Josh is giving me a weird face right now. Like, did you just say that? But no, I'm just saying these dudes are going to be like best buddies. I'm just speaking that into existence. So this is just, Josh, what a great day. And we're recording on a Wednesday.
A Wednesday, guess what it is? Going back to the church, Gateway.
Yep. So we, the name of their youth is what?
the name of the youth, We Are One. And then youth, if you want to go on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, they're all on there. And I invited more people, my friends, that are like, they're Christians, but they swear and a lot of, like, yeah, and they're just, and the highs and lows, and they're weird too. But I'm inviting them tonight to the youth where I went and see if they can go to the altar call and see if they get blessed like me.
Boom, shaka-laka-laka-laka.
Boom, shaka-laka-laka.
So, well, thanks again, Josh, for being on your Mommy's God Wink podcast.
It was fun to be with y'all guys.
And he's getting comfortable, too, because you can't see him now, but he's got his Office Evolution mug with some hot chocolate in it, similar to what he gets at Woodside Bible Church on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So I could tell the sugar. He is ready to go. I think he just licked the mug from bottom to top. Boy, oh boy. Well, thank you, listeners, so much for listening into the God Wink. And before we finish up, is there any final things or thoughts, Joshua, that you want to share with our listeners before we close up today?
I just hope this helps people that are in youth, like that are like me that I had, because I was upside down, definitely not with him. And I just was lost, and I hope this helps the grown-ups and youth. And, yeah.
Speaking truth. Speaking truth. All right, guys. Well, tune in to our next God Wink. I pray that this inspires you today to be authentic with the Lord. If you were raised up in the church and you feel like Joshua, to where it's like, I'm here, but I just don't feel like he hears me. I don't know even if he's real. It is okay. It is okay to have those feelings. Tell God that you feel this way and ask him to respond. Ask him to show himself to you. If you know of somebody that may even feel this way, or youth, right? Youth that you know could use this message, please share this podcast episode with them today, because our goal is to spread the good news and what God is doing. So I pray you have a blessed day and look forward to having you on the next God Wink. I want to give a big thank you to Office Evolution Troy for providing their podcast studio for us this afternoon to record. If you have any questions or you would like to book your own time in their podcast studio, give them a call at 586-788-9966. If today's God Wink story really hit home with you, we would love to hear about it through the God Wink community on Facebook. If you know of someone that needs to hear today's God Wink story, show them some love and tag them on the God Wink podcast. You never know how a God Wink story might change their day around for the better. If you or someone you know has a God Wink story that the world needs to hear, we want to hear it. Simply click the link within the podcast notes to send in your God Wink story. Until next time, remember, God's got you. Wink, wink.